Tina. Okay. So good morning, everyone. Today's Monday, June 29th, 2020. The time is 11:03 a.m. Welcome to our weekly Commissioner Status Update. We do have a relatively full schedule this morning. Attending are Commissioners Duncan, Brooks, and Fillios. Do we have any changes to the agenda? Hearing none, moving on. First item of business, COVID Task Force update and direction discussion item. Leslie.
And I think I will turn this over to the team. Is that?
Yes, good morning. Brief introduction, really. As you know, we've been sitting down with the COVID task force, talking through some of the issues that are arising, as well as the funding. And at the last meeting, there was some items that came up, and I'm going to turn it over to Kim to go over those. I believe she's on the line right now.
All right, Kim.
I am here. Thank you. Thanks, Michelle. So we just wanted to bring you up to speed. We are meeting on a weekly basis, and we had a pretty busy meeting last week in response to the email that we had sent out asking everyone to really, take a deep look at their expenses and what could be charged to the COVID. We're in the middle of doing some reclasses, things like that. So we just wanted to bring you up to speed, and we did have a couple of items that we wanted to receive more direction on. So for our progress update, we do have our resource documents posted on Casey Place on the auditor info and forms. We're working on our reimbursement request number 1 for all March and April expenses. The items that were already booked came to over $18,000, and we have some reclasses that will be added to that. We have a second reimbursement request that will be specific to the EOC expenses, and the OEM team is working on that one. We're working on pre-approval for the EOC relocation. I don't know if Jody has anything more on that at this time.
She has not received anything.
Okay, so that's a pending item. So because that's such a large expense, we are asking for pre-approval on that item. And we're also still waiting for the payroll reimbursement parameters to be finalized, but we would like to do the payroll reimbursement in one reimbursement request. So that's kind of where we're at. Were there any questions as far as what we've been up to for the last couple of weeks, or should I just go ahead and proceed down the list?
I just want to know, do you have the reimbursement request number 2 EOC expenses? Do you have a ballpark?
Is there anybody there from EOC? They were going to be working, talking to the PPE. Is somebody present?
I have info on
Tiffany.
The PPE, but as far as the EOC expenses, I don't have a number in my head. It was pretty low. Rachel's working on that, recoding everything right now.
I think we were at about 60,000.
Yeah, it was pretty low.
Okay, great.
The last time that we had looked, we were right around 60,000.
Okay, Julina said that they're right around 60,000. I don't know if you heard that, Kim.
Yes, I can hear it. Thank you. And if Tiffany's there, I'll let her speak to the PPE purchases.
Tiffany, can you come to a microphone? Sorry. Thanks.
We put out a survey last week asking all departments to give us their supply needs for PPE for the next 6 months or so, because we found it more effective to do bulk purchases of these supplies as prices vary and it's hard to find suppliers. To date, we've heard back from 16 of them. For the most part, we've been able to source it relatively well through Rachel because we've been dealing with the suppliers. We have the deadline of hearing back from all the departments by Friday of this week, and then we'll get those orders in. And that's where we're at with that. The other thing is as far as some of the smaller municipalities, we've been supplying them with PPE from donations, and that was a question we had, is whether or not we wanted to open up some funding to allow them to also be included in those bulk purchases, because the money we're receiving for the COVID, we can allow municipalities to use some as well. So that's a question where if we want to do that, how we can proceed with that. And the PPE expenses, we're looking at purchasing masks, gloves, and sanitizing wipes for the next 6 months, and then additional needs as they rise.
Okay.
Did the smaller cities not get any
Not as much
reimbursement?
money. It was population based, so it just
Okay.
depends on the size. Some of them did,
Sure. I don't have a problem with it as long as we don't get into a duplicate situation, because I know a lot of the documentation says, don't double bill us. So I don't want to cause an audit or, our funding to be revoked because we did something out of line.
Proceed accordingly and make sure we are following all the regulations.
Okay. Are we ready for the second item?
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay. Are you okay,
Was
Kim?
that-
You're done?
no, I think we're going on to furniture.
I'm done with that. Do you want me to move into the furniture?
I don't know.
Yes.
What are you looking at?
So
Ellen?
this they gave us last week in an email, and it was the discussion items for the
Oh,
COVID
okay.
expenses.
Yeah, let's move it because we will end in 1 hour. So let's go.
Yeah.
Okay,
Sorry,
so
folks,
this
but-
was just asking if you are interested in us. We received this from Veritas. There are many suppliers that could do similar. So this would be some options where we could use our COVID funding to purchase modular furniture that would provide social distancing. It would probably also help us maximize space for some of our departments that are very cramped and providing essential and mandatory services. So just wondering if you were interested in us pursuing something like this, bringing some vendors in and taking a look at our space and see what that would look like.
I mean, I don't think it's going to cost us. I don't think it's going to cost anything to bring people in to take a look at it, but I don't know, do we need to make adjustments for people to socially distance? Go ahead.
Well, I think we'd be looking at our current floor space, and seeing, right now with some of the big furniture that we get in there, we might be able to provide social distancing with these, with the dividers, and maybe even, somewhere where right now we might have 4 people, you might be able to get 6 in there. So it would be taking care of the limited space that we have while providing the social distancing between desks that are currently facing each other, that type of thing. In some of the more open floor plans.
Jody, go ahead.
In particular, there's some departments that have limited space, and so if you're going to be strategic in looking at telecommuting and then looking at the space and wanting to utilize it to its maximum facility, then you would potentially look at this as a design to be able to do the things that you would need to do to protect the employees. At the same time, it would be cost-effective because they're modular and you can rearrange them and then use them and leverage them beyond the scope of what we're talking about.
Okay. Go ahead, Shawn.
Just my 2 cents worth. It's free to have them come look. Just have a target of what you want them to look at. Like in my mind, I'm already thinking community development, maybe district court, where the clerks are. Some places you just can't fix it because there just isn't enough space. But if there's going to be money available for it, and it doesn't cost you anything to have them give you a quote and take a look at it, and as long as it doesn't create a bunch more work for Greg and or Grant, I think it's a good idea to just have them take a look.
And those were 2 of the ones that we were looking at, by the way. 2 of the-
Sure.
But we obviously refer to you as the board to say whether or not that would be something you want to know about.
Well, look at it this way, from my perspective. You want to bring them in and let them do what they're going to do, that's fine. You have a committee, you decide what organizations. I mean, I'm hearing this for the first time, so for me to sit here and say, well, we could do this one, and we could do that one, you guys figure it out and then let us know what you want to do.
We just want your blessing to go forward if that's something that
You're
you're interested in.
blessed. Just do it.
Okay, and I know we're short on time, so we'll bump down to the next one then. We had a specific request for a department asking for things beyond the laptops. We've kind of been, we've seen the authorization coming in from the liaisons. We think it's wise to do laptops for people that are providing essential services in any situation where if we were shut down and unable to get to our desk, we could take a laptop and work elsewhere. So those seem to make sense. The question is, if someone has a permanent workspace where they have social distancing, where they can already, be safe in that regard, do we want to move forward with printers and scanners and monitors and full setups at home in addition to their workspace at the admin building or wherever their permanent workspace is? How far do we go with that? And then additional questions that came up in our conversation were, if they have work accommodations at their office, do we have to provide the same at home? We just thought that the equipment portion of the current telecommuting policy might need a little bit more clarification, and we just feel like we're going to right now be looking at those at a case-by-case basis. And there was also concern, if we say yes to one department, are we going to end up with, you know, a large number of people wanting to have full office setups at home, and we don't even know how that would affect IT. So we wanted to get your guidance there.
Bring the information and then you get the guidance. I don't know.
Yeah, it's,
I mean, this is one of those things, you know, it's kind of interesting, and once in a while, someone will come to me and say, what do you think of this? And it's almost like, well, wait a minute, I didn't dream about that last night. Make whatever recommendations you want to make at that.
Recommend that you wouldn't duplicate a full capacity of where they have social distancing in the office currently. We would recommend the board not say, now you
Correct.
create a space at home.
Yes.
That's our recommendation.
yeah.
Period.
Then you're done. That's your recommendation.
The thing is, we need your backing.
Yes.
To do what? To not work at home?
To agree with us that we are saying that this is in terms of redundancy.
Right. So
Right.
if we get a request from an outside department and they would like to purchase, you know, what we just talked about, if we say no, we need your backing, because we don't want to be the bad guys.
I'm not interested in duplicating workspace
not
at
either.
home.
Perfect.
No, and there's going to be quite an expense to that.
Yeah.
And, I mean, all these things.
I mean, if-
All these things, if you say it's going to cost $5, do it. But that's not what's going to happen.
We need to use this money wisely.
I
and
know.
That is not a wise.
When we're talking about scanners and monitors.
Yeah. I mean, if we get into a situation where we get rapid deterioration or something with the virus, that we have a different scenario, but for now, no.
Right.
Okay. Do we have more? You're done?
That's all I had on the agenda. If there was anything anybody else had, they could speak up right now. If not, I'm taken care of.
Okay. Thank you. All right, I'm going to make a command decision here and skip, I'm not going to skip item, I'm going to skip over item 2 because I want to make sure we get to our action item. Item 3, Aquifer Protection District Budget Review. Necia, come right up.
Thank you. So I am Necia Maiani. I'm the chair of the Aquifer Protection Committee Board. So I just am here to present our recommendations for the 2020-2021 fiscal year for the Aquifer Protection District. We received 9 outside requests this year, totaling $487,574. We are recommending 8 of those, and that's outside of our internal stuff. But the total of the 8 is $462,974. 88% of that will go to DEQ and Panhandle Health District. The other items I can go through with you. Otherwise, it's in the work elements summary there, but a lot of those are repeat requests, with the exception of, we did get a request from the Kootenai County Fairgrounds for a new well, which can be used for monitoring, and so that was a recommendation forward. Other than that, we've got the Confluence project, which we've had for the last couple of years, Agromet, and small amount for soil conservation service. So as far as internal requests go, a lot of this is just going to be carry forward from last year because of COVID. A lot of the educational stuff and projects that were on the list, and even staff impacts to Panhandle Health, we didn't use that budget. So anyway, moving over from last year, the Aquifer Atlas reprint, so we're expecting that in this next fiscal year. And then we've got a consultant on board. We had to switch in the middle here, but we're working on recharge conservation easements. So there's a contract out there for that. That's some of that internal requests, along with just education support. So the total that we're recommending to the commissioners this year is $546,874. And I am happy to answer any questions. I will note with this, we're not recommending any change to the parcel fee at this time. So that annual parcel fee, which has been $5.74 for the last 3 or 4 years, that will continue. We have been growing the reserve. It's continuing to grow. I do anticipate with the consultant that we have on board now for those recharge areas that we will be dipping into that reserve in the next couple of years. At least that's our hope, is that that money is going to be used for purchasing and securing easements for those areas.
Sure.
So
your single biggest increase is the Aquifer Atlas printing.
yeah.
Which happens every 5 years.
Yep.
Yeah, and they didn't get done on the 5th year, so now it's gonna go
Yep.
forward again.
Yep.
Yeah, so the fund balance is quite large, so if you guys would just keep an eye on that, because we may need to lower that fee again to make sure that we're not, right now it's over a year's worth of operation, so.
Yeah, and I expect in this next year, once we have a normal year, get through this year, and the following fiscal year, we should have some better information and projections, so.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any questions for Necia? Are we ready for a motion?
Sure. I move that we accept and approve the Aquifer Protection District budget to go forth for fiscal FY21.
I second the motion. Aye.
Aye.
Aye, and the motion is carried to approve the proposed fiscal 21 budget for the Aquifer Protection District. Thank you, Necia. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your
Very
support.
welcome. Okay, let's back up to item 2, University of Idaho Extension Facilities discussion. Okay, Leslie, did you want to lead us off here?
So I think that there was some talk about some ideas moving forward, so I don't know if Sharla or Alexcia want to head up this discussion. I think the last direction, was that you would get together with your calendar and figure out how their October on dates would match up with what you have booked already.
Sharla Wilson, Extension Educator for University of Idaho Extension. So in visiting with Alexcia, they are on track to do their long-range plan, which will be a 6-month endeavor, which would mean that there would, if we're looking at a new facility, because there are no current facilities on the grounds that would be would not interfere with her current operations and would be suitable for the Extension office, I don't see where we would have a location on the grounds by October 1st for us to go to. So we would need to look at another option, whether it's working with elections within the building we're in to see if we can't find some compromise to work. If it's just extra workspace they need, can we remodel or redo the door on meeting room 7 so that they can have that secure like they do on meeting room 6 and have that extra space to work in during elections? I don't know, I haven't had enough information to know what it is exactly that they are needing. The other option might be looking at a rental facility to move elections to, which would mean 2 moves if we're looking at the end goal being to have us on the fairgrounds.
I'm sorry, so you said elections, but.
No, you mean for
extension.
Extension,
Okay.
yeah. Yeah.
Okay, when you, where do you top out in terms of attendance when you do your classes? What's your largest single?
Are classes that we're doing in meeting room 7 or classes that we do in general? Because all of the extension staff do offer classes which we exceed the capacity of meeting room 7, and so we have been using off-site facilities. When we use meeting room 7, we'll often max at around 40 participants, depending on our seating arrangements. And we often have classes that we are at or near capacity.
Okay, so when you use off-premise facilities, go ahead.
So if we use off-premise facilities, I know personally, I've done trainings where I'm over 150 people. I know our forester also does trainings of that or near that size.
And where are those held?
I've used school buildings in the area. I've worked with the school districts, so I could use some of their facilities. Chris most recently worked with NIC to use one of their auditoriums for his large meeting. So it's one of those resource out and work in partnership with other areas as much as we can. But being able to have an in-house meeting room for us is very helpful for both us and our clientele. I know oftentimes when I've completed a training or a meeting, I transition to customer service at the end of that and provide supplies and materials that I only have if I'm in our office.
How often do you have large meetings like that?
I have months where I have meetings 2 or 3 times a week.
Of that size, of over 100 people?
Not over 100 people, more into that 30 to 40 range.
Okay. How often do you exceed that?
How often do we exceed that? I would say we're only a couple times. Each educator is only a couple times a year, or each program is only a couple times a year when we're into that 100 range.
So that would total out to?
So we have 4 programs in our office.
Times 2 is 8?
Yeah.
So 8, so basically roughly every month and a half.
Yeah. And for those extremely large offerings, I don't anticipate that those are necessarily going to be in-house. Those are things that we'll work with the fairgrounds, we'll work with schools, we'll work with NIC, and I'm okay with that. But our regular meetings and our regular trainings would be ideal to have in an adjacent
And
location.
those occur, what, several times a week?
Yes.
Okay.
So how much office space plus meeting room? So a meeting room for 40 is what I'm hearing, and
At least,
office
yeah.
space.
So I would say a meeting room for 40 at minimum. 60 would be better, 80 would be best.
Sure.
Okay. So, and I guess this is a question for Alexcia. Alexcia, okay, so the challenge in the interim is something by September, October. Come on up.
In the microphone.
No, actually beginning in October?
You want to know if we can house them beginning October?
Yeah.
That's what you're asking?
And we realize it's not going to be permanent because in all probability, we're going to have to renovate something, build something, whatever. We can't decide that today, but go ahead.
I think after we've looked at this, the best option for housing them would be to look into a portable building.
Okay.
If you are planning to put them at the fairgrounds right now.
Okay.
Or even October. Otherwise, we have to forego our rental space, which would probably be Building 3, which is one of the most rented buildings, especially through the winter months. And then providing Building 2 for meeting space. Right there, you've jeopardized the flow of a lot of the events.
Understood.
You would have to cancel them. Or
So if we
change
go
them.
to a portable structure, you have space?
We could find a location. I
Okay.
believe there's places where we could tie into sewer and get them everything they need. It's not ideal, but I think it's a building that after our master plan, we could transition to other uses
Okay.
on the fair facility.
Do you have just a ballpark
I was just going to ask you.
on
price?
portable?
Well, that's all
There's a
right.
lot of numbers in my head right now,
Sure.
so I can't remember that one because it's kind of moved to the.
Can you let us know, let us know within a week or so? or-
So there's a lot of moving parts here. Would this be something that Shawn could work with extensions, fairgrounds, elections, and kind of coordinate all of this? Because it seems like we're just meeting piecemeal. So I don't know if that's something that,
Yeah, I can do that.
okay.
I follow your directions, so
Okay.
if you want me to work with them, I will.
Yes.
There's a lot of, I'm just hearing a lot of moving parts. A portable building, for instance, sewer, a septic, I'm gonna drop all my stuff on the floor. But there just sounds like there's a lot of moving parts here, so yeah, I don't have a problem getting involved and helping.
Yeah, and what's driving this? Obviously, we have a situation today that's challenging, and that's only going to be compounded because of potential move of county assistants, consolidating it, since Shelley Amos is managing both elections and county assistants. And that's what's necessitating the need to have to do something for U of I Extension. So if you can get with Sharla and Alexcia and work something out, come to us with a proposal and see what we can do. How's that? And there may be a solution that we haven't thought of yet. I don't know.
So just so I'm clear on what the end result is you need to have someplace for them by 10/1.
Yes.
At the latest, because elections is going to be swamped, so to speak, because it is a presidential coming up in November.
Right, okay, I just wanted to make sure.
Yes, sir.
I was on the same page.
Yep.
As far as what the end result is.
Okay?
And I'm game to work with Shawn and Alexcia to, as you said, maybe there's a solution out here that we haven't come across yet, to find something that's adequate and sufficient for all of our staff, because we have currently 6 individuals in offices plus 2 admin, and this summer we're looking at having another 10-plus individuals on staff to help do programming through the fall.
And you're currently, if I'm not mistaken, you're running the largest 4-H in the state, is that correct?
Yes, we're running the largest 4-H program in the state. We have a family consumer science program that is working with just about every school on the Better Lunchroom programs, as well as a lot of families who are on limited funds and making sure that they can help make the best use of their food dollars. We have our forestry educator who is running multiple counties, but everybody refers to him as far as doing that. And we have a booming Master Gardener program where we have a very significant walk-in traffic, normally this time of year, for residents coming in and saying, what is this plant? How do I keep my garden green? And we're helping them to not add anything to the aquifer and other things that would be a detriment to our
Okay,
community.
cool. All right, so we have a working group, Shawn, Sharla, Alexcia,
And then maybe somebody at elections.
and that's somebody, yeah. Okay, that takes care of item 2. So the first 3 items are addressed. Okay, item number 4, communication to Governor Little regarding prison release center advisory vote. Bill?
I think it's appropriate after a 78% plus turnout against the prison release center that I don't think commissioners should take a position as a group or even individually. If this comes before us, we want it to be straightforward. But to say to the governor, we'd like you to take a look at this advisory vote, please. In light of this, we'd like to have you make your decision based on what the people of Kootenai County want. And also a copy to, or maybe even a specific communication to Josh Tewald, the head of the Idaho Department of Corrections. And that's all. I mean, I don't want, people really felt strongly about that, more strongly about that than anything else that was on the ballot, anything. And I think it would behoove us to keep that in mind and remind the people who have the power to put it in here or not. That's all.
Okay. It's not an action item, but thoughts?
No, I mean, if Bill, if you want to send a letter to those, 2 agencies, that's absolutely in your purview, and
Yeah, I'd like to have it done by all 3 of us, so something really that shows that the board is unified in just bringing this to the attention, not advocating for or against the prison release center.
I'll write it up and I'll take a look at it. I just know that they already know, since they've gotten all the signatures, they've gotten all that information. So to me, it's not something I can spend any time on, but if you want to write a letter and, I'll review it.
Draft something, we'll look at it.
Okay, good.
That's fine. I imagine they know if they've
Well,
looked
I'm
at
sure
their
they know.
returns,
I'm
but
sure that I
still.
just want to remind them from the standpoint of the people of the county.
Okay. You good? Draft something?
Oh, yeah, that's,
Okay, cool. Okay, item number 5, Citizen Advisory Committee.
well, I started this thing, I don't know, months ago before COVID, as far as the citizens, we don't even have a name for it. But it has to do with redundant or superfluous rules, regulations, ordinances that we find in the county. And I haven't really pushed it much, but I've had calls from within the last 3 weeks, from about 6 different individuals who were very interested in serving on that. And I would like to kind of reinvigorate that, first by inviting them to get together informally and figure out a name that we could bring to the board and see if that is acceptable.
I think it needs bylaws first. I think it needs a scope of action and bylaws, because otherwise I don't know how these people know exactly what they're getting together.
Well, is that what all the other advisory boards do? Well, then,
Yeah.
Yeah,
we
pretty
should do
much.
the-
Nancy, Nancy, do you want to jump in, please?
Please.
Good morning, Commissioners. That is correct. Typically, we have 10 advisory boards currently. The first step would be for this board to come forward with a scope, defining exactly what you would like that advisory board to accomplish, and then how long those terms would be, how many people will be on the board. And then we could begin we do have some applications. I think we received probably 4 or 5 applications when we first had this discussion. But until we have bylaws and a scope, it's very difficult for staff to move
Okay.
forward.
Well, I don't mind working on that if that's okay.
That'd be
Yeah,
wonderful.
no, absolutely. How much time do you think you need?
I don't know, 3 weeks.
We can just
I
put
mean-
it, we can put it on this, so it doesn't.
Yeah, put it on the
Just put it
status
on
updates.
status.
Not something that is on fire, but it's something that I think is valuable,
Cool. Okay, we could do that.
okay?
Absolutely. Thank you, Nancy. All right. Item number 6, possible public workshops for citizens to address concerns with commissioners.
Well, that's not exactly how I imagined this on the agenda. One old fella, and if he were here, I'd say that, he's a good guy, Les Wiggins. He's older than anybody on our board, and he was a 3-time commissioner in Washington. What was it, Whitman County or?
Yeah, it was Whitman
Yeah,
County.
and what he said was, we used to have workshops where the commissioners can talk to each other without action items, or where you can just sit there and kick something around. We don't have that. We don't have that ability. If 2 of us do it, people raise their eyebrows and say, are you doing
Deliberating.
something here? Yeah, what did you say?
Are you deliberating?
Deliberating, that's the naughty word. And I want this clear and upfront and open so that people can be here and listen and see that there's no deliberation going on. But I frequently benefit from what my 2 commissioners tell me as far as their thoughts. And we don't really have any forum to do that in. So I don't know, that's just a thought. And it's nothing hard, we have to do something right now, but I'm interested.
How does that look different than what we do on Mondays at 11?
Well, on Mondays at 11, it's more structured, it's more formalized. And if we're talking about A, and you say something that I go, ooh, what about B?
Right, and it's not on the
And
agenda.
instead of saying, well, it's not on the agenda,
Right.
which someone will say.
I'm going to put somebody on the spot here.
Dave, you're thinking of Dave.
Dave's
Yeah, I'm
looking
thinking
at
of Dave. Is that even possible? So I assume you're thinking it's not going to be clerked, is what you're saying?
Exactly.
If there are 2 or more commissioners, it creates a quorum. And if there are matters that are likely to lead to the board taking action on a matter at some point, then it needs to be an open meeting with a notice and a proper agenda that needs to be clerked. It's very difficult for this board to engage in free-form discussions without some purpose. Because those discussions necessarily are going to involve county business, otherwise you wouldn't be having them. And for there not to be some sort of agenda purpose, may likely run afoul of the meeting law. So if the board is going to entertain such a concept, I think you're going to have an agenda with items of discussion that are at least sufficiently described to put the world on notice, so to speak. That's what the board is discussing.
And I think,
Everything the board does that even tangentially involves, when I say the board, I mean at least a quorum of board members, it involves county business, is going to create a quorum. And it's going to be seen as being a deliberation, even if it's not an action item for that day, it could be an action item later. It's probably a deliberation.
I see.
The definition of deliberation is pretty open.
I see that as the problem then. I understand what you're saying and agree with it. But that's the problem with this antiquated form of government that was started in 1890. We have 3 equal CEOs and 2 people going, hey, let's kick this around. That's technically a quorum and a deliberation.
I think that's what Dave is saying.
Yeah, well, he is saying that, and I agree with that. So
The legislature has created a preference for matters of local county government to happen in an open way so the public can participate. And that means there has to be rules that need to be followed, and those are in the open meeting law. I understand your concern.
Tina.
Why not just create time set aside for longer public comment?
I suppose, but I mean, what we're doing here is good. This works.
Well, public comment could be all free.
That's true, too.
Okay.
I'm clerking, you know.
I'm public.
See, I think we have the ability right now as individuals to conduct workshops. For example, you had your listening session on the waterways issues.
Yeah.
And I think we can do that as individuals and not run afoul of the open meeting law.
Oh, yeah.
I think once we try to do, to Dave's point again, with 2 or more, we're in trouble. So on an individual basis, I don't have an issue with it. I'm fine with it.
Okay, these are things, all 3 of these things that I just wanted to bring up.
Sure.
I've got no agenda, so to speak.
Anything else, famous last words? Okay, let's move on to our status.
Okay, I think this
Pending
will go
items.
quick.
Yeah, this should be good.
Yeah, so Romer House, there's no change. We are
Correct.
waiting for Music Conservatory to review the facility agreement, and I have not gotten a clean copy from Pat yet, so I will follow up with him today.
Right, he's completed it, though.
Yes,
Can I just?
Yes, go right ahead, please.
Just to keep you in the know, Julianne called me last Friday. She still has not set up a date and time to show the building.
Okay,
She wanted the key to the building so that they could use the electricity for a microphone, and I told her no. So I said if there was an outlet outside someplace, we would not have a problem with them using it, but we've already put caution tape up around I asked her to put caution tape up on the handicap ramp and the front, because they're not even supposed to be up on the deck. She was not happy that I would not give her a key, and then she asked me if we could just have somebody open it and then lock it at the end, and I said, I don't think you 3 want to pay anybody double time to go down there, one of Greg's people, and open it up and stay there the whole time to make sure nobody's in the house.
well, why would she want access again?
She wanted.
Electricity.
She wanted to run an extension cord or 2 out of the building for the microphone and something to do with the concert on the 4th of July. And she asked me if I had seen the MOU yet, and I said, I'm sure it will be discussed Monday morning. So.
So how would we or they get power?
If
For a
there's an
mic?
outlet- I mean, to me, you can rent a portable microphone.
Oh, okay, fine, let them do that.
You don't need the power.
Good enough.
Just go rent a portable, well, that costs.
Did you suggest that to her?
Yes.
Good, enough.
What did you say?
She says,
We're already doing enough,
Yeah.
in my opinion.
that's okay.
Amen.
That's all I'm saying.
The challenges of a music conservatory. Okay. Anyway, all right. Thank you, Shawn. Fire station at the Fairgrounds, we're still working on the legal agreement with that. So as long as Keetenai Fire and Rescue's patient, I guess so are we. Nothing really further to report.
Body scanner, I keep in touch with Captain Holacek. He says everything's moving fine, but they've got to get it in. They've got to get it paid for. They found the funds. they've got to get it tested, and they've got to get people trained on it.
It's on the business meeting tomorrow,
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
And is it on the business meeting for us to actually approve it?
yeah. Yep.
Thank you. Okay, ongoing facilities expansion, and I guess that's really all three of us.
Appraisal to be done by the end of July, so I think that's,
What's that?
the appraisal will be done by the end of July.
The appraisal that's been ordered
Yes, that's coming before you
tomorrow.
tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah, so I don't think we need to address that until the
Okay.
beginning of August, probably.
That works.
And I'm working on that RFQ for
Okay.
the building here, so when I get that done, I'll let you know, and then you can,
That's true, that's part of facilities,
we'll
yeah.
have a meeting on it for any changes that you
Okay. On the RFQ, just roughly for this structure, for this campus, that's what you're referring to?
Yes.
Just give us some rough ideas, floors, square footage, is anything, are you prepared to share anything?
I think we're looking at, correct me if I'm wrong, Leslie, probably 4 floors, and then
And
a fifth of a shell.
Okay.
It's still gonna be right around 10,000 square feet a floor.
I think 15,
Or 15,000 square feet.
Per floor?
yeah.
We just eliminated one floor, basically.
And as we get into it, we might be able to eliminate a second floor. We'll just have to see how the furniture discussion goes with the other departments and things like that.
So it's kind of fluid. I'm just gonna write it up as, it's called the Kootenai County Attorney Center. It's gonna be 5 floors. It'll have it'll have some maximum security, for lack of a better term, because it does have a holding cell. It'll have a secured elevator. So we're gonna be looking for architect who has a really good group of engineers that they work with, number one, and then they have to have some experience with court and detention, because that's one of the, and office space. So Leslie and I sat down, we gave weight to certain things that'll be in the RFQ when we get ready to score it, that would not typically be just for an office building.
When do you anticipate issuing the RFQ?
That's up to you. I mean, I can have a draft of it done probably by the end of the week.
Oh, my goodness,
And
okay.
then we can go through the draft, and if you're fine with it, then I'll send it to legal. If legal's fine with it, put it out in, within a month.
That's fine.
Do you want to, do you think you can have it for next Monday's, July 6th status update?
I think so, if you want to put it on for the status update.
Yeah.
As a possible action item, because I would ask you to, I'll get it to you beforehand so you can read it.
Sure.
And I would ask you that if you're fine with it, or if you have any revisions, then the next step would be to go to legal for review, and then we would put it out for advertisement.
Do you anticipate both prosecutor and public defender in there?
Yeah, we have them both.
Both, okay.
Yeah,
Among others.
What we did, in part of the way we were able to eliminate an entire floor, if you will, was not as many new courtrooms and utilizing more. Like, for instance, in the 2 plans that Scott had, he had all new courtrooms in the whole thing. And then when Leslie and I sat down and looked at it, it's like, okay, well, now what are we gonna do with the ones we already have? We don't, so they need a big courtroom, they're gonna get that, probably 2 medium-sized courtrooms, they're gonna get that. And then that leaves us, that saves the floor, and that leaves us plenty of room to bring in the public defender, and the prosecutor moves over, and then all the other moves that we went through would just ripple out from there.
Okay, cool.
Remember, Shawn, that we're not here on Friday, so don't short yourself time.
I work for myself. So
Yes.
He's working through the weekend. Okay, cool. Thank you, appreciate it. PAC lease?
Yeah, we'll just do that in August when, because we have to wait till the budget's settled. And that's what I put on there is waiting for legal to weigh in and then budget complete in August.
Okay, we're good.
So.
Wow. Okay, then. Public comment? None? 11:47, meeting adjourned. We made it. Thank you.